Chris Cowser here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, we're going to discuss Blade Runner, Gerald's Game, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. You know what? Life is shit. Here's a clip from Blade Runner.
Every civilization was built off the back of a disposable workforce. But I can only make so many. Happy birthday.
There is an order to things. That's what we do here. We keep order. The world is built on a wall that separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall, you bought a war.
You're a cop. I did your job once. I was good at it. I know. What do you want? I want to ask you some questions.
All right, man. So you've been looking forward to this show, this episode, this film for a very long time. Me, not so much. Whatever. I could take the Blade Runners or leave them. No, that is not true at all. This was, I think, this may have been my most anticipated film of the year, if I remember correctly.
Really? Was it the most anticipated film of the year? Wow.
I'm thinking so. So, all right. So, Blade Runner 2049. I'm not going to make the joke. So,
because somebody stole it from us.
I know. I'm going to let you, because I think, I don't know. It just isn't. I'm a nice guy. Why don't you tell everybody at home, what is Blade Runner 2049 all about?
All right. So, obviously, it takes place after how many years is it? 30 years after the events of the original Blade Runner. Essentially,
keep in mind, I think those events took place in 2019 or 18.
Yeah, they did. So we got a little catching up to do.
Really behind on flying cars and dystopias.
Well, I mean, we're well on pace for dystopia, Chris, so let's not throw that out of the woods. Just, yeah.
As you heard in the opening of the show, this is going to be a tough show today. I'm going to get a little angry at times, so we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, we're way behind on the replicant stuff, too. We're not even close.
Right. I know.
Oh, well.
I want a robot. All
right, so Blade Runner 2049. What's going on?
All right, so essentially it's 30 years after the events of the original Blade Runner. The Tyrell Corporation, which is the corporation from the first Blade Runner, has collapsed due to various calamities. And the replicant technology has been taken over by the Wallace Corporation, led by Gerald, and he has made some improvements in replicant technology. Namely, he came up with a model that doesn't have the 8-year lifespan. It has an indefinite lifespan. And essentially, Ryan Gosling plays a Blade Runner, or a detective who searches for runaway replicants who've gone rogue, and he gets embroiled in kind of a conspiracy, involving the events of the first film. I don't want to spoil too much of it for you, so, but I don't think it's a huge thing because it's hard. You can't really tell this from the trailer, but it is released. It is pointed out in the first like 5 minutes of the movie, so it's not a huge deal, I don't think. But the interesting thing is that they're using replicants to hunt down replicants because Ryan Gosling is a replicant looking for other replicants.
Yeah. So one of the things I was trying to figure out as I was watching this thing is like, so Ridley Scott has said that Deckard was a replicant in the first film, right? In fact, I think he's actually said it's like, if you can't figure that out, you're an idiot. So, or maybe it was the director of photography. I can't remember, but somebody said that who had worked on the film. So, but what I don't initially too watching this thing, I was thinking, all right, well, we've definitely hammered that home. Deckard is clearly a replicant, but I guess not. Maybe the more I thought about it, I think the more that part of it in relations to Deckard is still slightly ambiguous. Am I right about that?
Right. So here's the thing that you have to understand about replicants, and I had to really nerd out because I don't think it was fully explained.
Because so clearly he's been around longer than 8 years.
Right. But he could be one of these models that were, and I think Wallace, which is Jared Leto's character, perfected them. But the implication was that the Tyrell, the original replicants, had these replicants that could conceivably last as long as a normal human would. And he just kept them. Sean Young was supposed to be,
Rachel was supposed to be one of those special high-end replicants,
right? Who
was going to live longer and perhaps be able to do other things.
Right. So here's the thing that you gotta understand about replicants. They're not, and I had to look this up because I wasn't catching this. They are not straight up robots. They are created, and they have more. They have greater strength, greater, reflexes. They have problems with, obviously their emotions, things that'll give them away. But for all intents and purposes, they really are flesh and blood. They're just created flesh and blood, and they've been enhanced in some way. They're lesser class citizens because they're not born, but so then it becomes a leap of the events of the film. I think it still leaves it a little ambiguous, because if you could create a replicant that could live longer than this artificial lifespan you've programmed into it, and it's still biological, maybe you could create them to do other things. So I don't think that necessarily discounts the major theory from the first film.
True. And which was an interesting revelation for me watching this, when we get the bones and skeleton of a replicant, it didn't occur to me. I thought they were like robots or cyborg type things,
right,
or that they were manufactured, but clearly it's more of I don't want to say cloning process because they're not representing an existing thing, but still they are just manufactured life. And I just don't want, I never thought of it that way. I don't know. I guess that's just how dumb I am. Probably not having read the source material as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this, the story, it's called, do androids dream of electric sheep? So I always thought, again, based off the first one, that you're thinking that this is like a Data situation from Star Trek. It looks like a person, or an ex machina kind of thing. On the outside, it looks like a person, but if you pulled off the skin, it would basically be a robot underneath. Whereas that's obviously not the case, which opens up a whole different set of moral quandaries and twists to the story, even more than it did before, which is very interesting.
Well, yeah, because the first film, it's all about, listen, it's a sci-fi crime noir, which 2049 clearly continues that. But also the big conceit, the big core of the film is, what does it mean to be human, right?
Right.
And I think this film picks up that storyline and runs with it and does a fantastic job. And I think that I think the casting of Ford, which of course makes sense because he's in the original film, but having hit the opposite of him being Ryan Gosling, it was an interesting choice. Because if you looked at the two actors, right, Ford is just your steel-jawed, stoic, manly, traditional representation of what a tough guy is. And Gosling is not. He has a softness to him. I don't know if it's his eyes or how he emotes, but whatever it is. But you know what I'm talking about. Look it up.
No, I know. Yeah, I know.
his emotions appear.
There's a reason those "Hey Girl" memes exist.
Exactly.
Let's just put it that way.
His emotions always feel almost ever present to me. You know, they're always right there underneath the surface for him. And I think it's really an interesting dichotomy with the two of them together, with those two ends of the spectrum and both of them potentially being replicants. I just think that's a brilliant bit of casting to have that those two going up against, well, teaming up or however you want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you think overall? There's a lot of stuff to talk about here, Matt. So is this a worthy sequel to the original film? Should it even exist? And then how was your overall experience with the movie?
So if you would ask me, you know, I was very excited about this, and I was sure you were very excited about this, but
Yes.
if you'd asked me before I had seen this or even seen a trailer, I probably would have questioned the fact that this thing even exists. I mean, Blade Runner is one of the best science fiction films ever created. It's obviously in the canon, and that is not something that you generally want to mess with.
Right.
That being said, I thought they did a fantastic job. I mean, it's beautifully shot. And I always butcher this guy's name. Is it Villeneuve or Villeneuve?
Villeneuve, I think. Villeneuve.
Okay.
Villeneuve. I don't. You know what? I didn't
Villeneuve.
get. Damn it! I didn't watch those prequel things. I meant to, but I got sucked into the Yankee game last night. So you maybe can you share your thoughts about that too in a little bit if you got to watch them?
I didn't get to watch them because I was busy watching Gerald's game, so I didn't see them either. Yeah, they.
So I'm sorry. Continue. I forget I said that.
Yeah. So the way Villeneuve, he kind of takes the imagery from the first one, but he still twists it to make his own. It's much more vibrant, but it's still kind of got that dreariness to it. It's not quite as filthy, but it still has that hopelessness to it. I think the look of it is absolutely fantastic. And I will tell you, the second this thing started, even with just the cold open and the opening scene, I was on board with this thing like from frame one. And I thought they did an absolutely fantastic job. I think they did a great job of taking the mythos of the original and building upon it, answering some questions while not answering everything and creating its own questions.
Yep.
Everything was very well acted. Honestly, I have no complaints about this movie. If I had one slight niggle, is the fact that this thing is long. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes, which blew by for me. But those kind of, again, it seemed to me it kind of rushed into the climax. It spent such a slow, methodical world building time getting there, and then when it was happening, like it was like, oh crap, this is the end of the movie. Like it just happened really, really fast. And you know, again, I don't think they necessarily completely stuck the landing, but everything leading up to that was fantastic.
Yeah, do you feel if they had any issues with it, would be potentially be the pacing of it? Though we like to say for the longer films that have slow moments that it's deliberately paced, which is fine for me. And it's a minor quibble. Another thing too is it's got a good score. And I'm a big score guy. It's got a good one, not great. There wasn't a lot like you just heard in that trailer clip. They tried to use the Vangelis stuff a little bit. I don't know. The score wasn't so much these big themes, but more atmospherics to set the mood for the film. So it's not like you're going to have a big theme or this rousing or thing. So it was good. And you know what, too? I got it. So I'll listen to it a couple times. I'll bet you in about a month I'll think it's great. I feel some of the threads don't get tied up. There's a thing where, and I'm actually okay with this. There's talk of a potential revolution and a leader for that revolution, and we don't really do anything with that, right? There's the replicant revolution that may come, and we just kind of close the door on it. And we're 240 in at this point, so
right.
Would you want to see that sequel? Because let's be honest, folks. We're not going to get a sequel to this thing.
No,
because
unless it's like another 35 years from now, when
maybe
this thing goes into cult status or canon status for sci-fi films.
I think it will. I'm very listen. This is I think this. I hate to use this word, but this may be Villeneuve's masterpiece for me. I think this thing is it's not a perfect film, but it is fantastic. It is gorgeous to watch. There's some stunning visuals in this thing. Roger Deakins, Matt, he's going to get nominated for an Academy Award. Do you know he still never won one?
Really?
He's never won. He's been nominated like 13 times or something like that, and he's never won, which blows my mind. So, but he should win for this one. I mean, this thing is just a visual feast. Listen to this, Matt. He's just the last few years, right? He did Sicario, Unbreaking, Prisoner, Skyfall, True Grit, The Company of Men, Serious Man, Doubt, The Assassination of Jesse James with a Coward Robert Ford, No Country for Old Men. He has shot some gorgeous films. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So it's just Villeneuve has made possibly the pinnacle of your sci-fi noir genre film. I really think that is it better than the first film, Matt?
I don't know if it's better than the first film. I think it's a different animal, and I think they can stand on equal footing. That's for sure. I don't know. Maybe given time and distance, and watching the two of them together back to back obsessively, maybe I will say one is better than the other. But I think this is like, to compare it to another thing that's a completely different animal. It's like saying, is Aliens better than Alien? Well, they're different movies, and granted, it's not as insanely different as those two movies, but they're both great. And I think it's equal. It's definitely on par. It has its weaknesses. You can definitely see that they're setting this thing up to have a sequel. That's never going to come unless it's 40 years from now. But I think they were banking that thing was going to be huge, and I'm amazed that the geek contingent really hasn't shown out in droves to watch this. I mean, it just absolutely blows my mind, and it just makes me think that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm going to finish up what you're going to say.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show you, we get so, and I say we as in, film nerds and people who are into like sci-fi and genre stuff, we get so passionate about it and we're so vocal about it on the internet that it tricks people into thinking that there's a huge audience for these things. And then this stuff happens and it finds out, oh, wait, we may be really loud, but we don't really have that big of an audience. Like, it doesn't have like a mass appeal like a Spider-Man or a Wonder Woman, like where anybody could go and like that. This is definitely a niche kind of thing, and it makes me nervous that we're not gonna get those niche kind of things. And it's okay if we get smaller ones, but we're not gonna keep. It's gonna be rarer and rarer, which makes me sad.
Yeah, that's basically what I was gonna say. The what do you call it? The tracking for this is exceptionally skews very high male. So. And it doesn't seem to have that crossover appeal. Some people on the internet were saying, well, people are just tired of sequels and stuff. No, that's not true.
No.
Because you tell me what Thor Ragnarok's going to do, all right? Or Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or that's all BS. No, that's not what the problem.
Yeah, tell me how much Fast and Furious 8 made, and then come talk to me.
So I think the problem is that this thing has had the original film had a cult status and has built over the years and its appreciation, but that following was still small, right? I think the problem is we're talking maybe 30 plus million people, not at the most. It's not this giant, which is still a big number, but it's not this gigantic behemoth that we had convinced ourselves it was going to be. And it's really sad because this is just a stunning work of art by Villeneuve. It demands to be seen on the largest screen possible. I'm trying to figure out a way to go see this again next week. I have to see it again on the big screen. I saw it at the Dolby Theater here. The one, unfortunately, near me in Tampa, it's exceptionally loud and gorgeous presentation, but there's some loose boards or something. So when the bass hits, you can hear the theater rattling, which is kind of just takes me out of it. There's another Dolby Theater that's a little farther away that I saw a film and it didn't have that issue. So I think I'm gonna go try and go see it again there. But You have to go see this thing. So any other weakness perhaps from me, and this was written by Melissa McKay. You can check it out on birthmoviesdeath.com. If you're not familiar, that's the site basically formed by Mondo and what do you call it there? Austin. The what's the big picture house? Why am I blanking? Alamo.
Yeah.
So that's their kind of movie site. And Melissa Kay, she's a writer, she's an artist, does a bunch of great stuff. But she wrote this article decrying its presentation of women in the film, and that somehow they are worse off in this film 30+ years later than they were in the original. It's called Blade Runner 2049, The Future is Faux Female, and how they all basically just, all the female characters in this film just exist to promote Ryan Gosling's character and his journey. They really don't do anything but that. I think one of the more interesting relationships in this film is between Gosling's character and his
companion hologram
girlfriend Joy.
Yeah.
And I think that Villeneuve does an interesting job near the end of the film presenting potentially even that relationship may not be real. But again, it's just to service him, you know? So it's, I don't know. That was so, but it's a slight critique, I think. Overall, I think the thing is fantastic. So, and then I have one more thing, Matt, I need to ask you about. Ryan Gosling says this line 2 or 3 times in the film. So listen up.
I want to ask you some questions.
Okay. I want you to hear it again.
I want to ask you some questions.
Every time I hear that, this is what I hear.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
Now, I don't know what it is, but every time I heard Gosling say
I want to
this,
ask you some questions.
I would hear Arnold.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
I think it's just maybe my Arnold sycophants. Maybe. I don't know what it is, but I always thought of Arnold in Kindergarten Cop whenever he said, I want to ask you something. I don't know, it's just the delivery of the line just seemed very similar to me. Thoughts?
Yeah. Now that you've said that, I'm going to think about Kindergarten Cop all the time. All right.
Final thoughts on Blade Runner 2049? Yeah, what do you think? Go ahead.
I'm just thinking about the article that you mentioned that the future is faux female. I was reading something. I mean, I haven't read it, so I'll have to read it and see what it's like.
I'll post a link to it in the show notes.
I did read something that kind of irritated me, where they were giving the movie shit because Harrison Ford was allowed to age, but Sean Young, they brought back sorry, spoiler alert. Sean Young, they brought back Rachel. They brought back Rachel, and she looked like she did, and they did all the computer stuff. And I guess I get the point that they're trying to make, but it's like you're hosting your petard on the whole thing is that she is genetically recreated to specifically look like she was supposed. They literally put her out of a machine to produce it. So of course she's going to look the same.
Yeah, the whole point was she was supposed to look like she used to. I don't have an issue with that.
I got all unreasonably mad about it. So now since I got unreasonably mad about that because of the nerd minutia, now I'm very sensitive about, okay, what are the people criticizing about this awesome movie that I love? Then I'm going to give it an A. I'm going to give an A to this film.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's fair. I think that's dead on. So on the list, Matt, I got Baby Driver #1. Mm-hmm. Dunkirk 2. This is my favorite of the year so far. Personal Shopper. The rest of these aren't in particular order. Personal Shopper, Wonder Woman, Get Out, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Colossal, When It Comes at Night. I'm trying to figure out where does this slot.
Yeah, this definitely has to be up in there. Obviously we have some big films. We're getting into award season. We've got The Greatest Living Actor going to produce his supposedly last film.
Whatever.
So that's going to be on there somewhere, but I don't know. I think this is definitely in the top 5. Right now I would probably put it in. I'll probably put it in my second favorite film so far this year, after Baby Driver.
That's what
I've seen so far.
That's what I'm thinking to myself. I'll be watching Baby Driver soon too. Pick that up. It just came out this past Tuesday, or was it last week? So
yes, I got it last night.
Nice. So awesome. Yeah. All right. Blade Runner 2049, a worthy sequel. I think there's enough story here for it to continue. I know watching this, it did make me wish that Villeneuve had gotten his first choice and it was physically possible, and that David Bowie had played the Jared Leto character. Every time he was on there, I was thinking about that. But stunning visuals. You have to see this in the largest, loudest theater you can. One of the best films of the year.
Yes, definitely.
If you've had a chance to see Blade Runner 2049, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's move on. What's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, October 17th? First up, DC and Warner Brothers are re-releasing basically all of their films on Blu-ray, but really they're just new versions. They're not new versions of the films. We're including movie cash for the Justice League film. So if there's anything you haven't picked up, including like Batman 1989, all of those, you can pick up some money to go watch Justice League. I may actually finally upgrade my Batman or Batman Returns to get that sweet, sweet movie cash. Criterion has given us Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. It was a new restored 4K digital transfer supervised by David Lynch. Some other featurettes as well. But for you Twin Peaks fans, you can pick that up from Criterion on Blu-ray. They're also releasing Kubrick's masterpiece Barry Lyndon, starring Ryan O'Neal, with a new 4K digital restoration and a couple new interviews with people as well. So if you're a Barry Lyndon fan, you can pick that up from Criterion. Shot Caller, starring Nicholas Coster-Waldau, the guy from Game of Thrones, the Kingslayer, if you will.
Right.
He plays a guy who ends up a successful businessman. He ends up going to jail for a DUI, and then he's got a family, a life, and then he just basically becomes corrupted and usurped by his time in jail. It's supposed to be pretty good. It includes an audio commentary by the filmmakers and making of featurette. Matt, did you watch American Gods?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it quite thoroughly.
So season one's being released on Blu-ray as well, with the Road to American Gods documentary and some other featurettes. So you can pick that up, as well as audio commentary on the premiere and finale episodes. Stranger Things is getting a Target exclusive release, it appears, for a little while, with a poster, and it looks like the case looks like a VHS cover. So you can pick that up. No news, though, on any special features. I couldn't find anything. Holiday Inn is being released on Blu-ray, the classic film, which gave us the song White Christmas. That's getting released. If you've never seen Holiday Inn, it's pretty good. Girls Trip, one of the runaway successes this year, financially, is being released as well. Includes deleted scenes, a gag reel, and then also those deleted scenes come with commentary by the director Malcolm Lee. And then Matt, the big film this week. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Spider-Man: Homecoming is being released on Blu-ray this week.
Woo!
There's a 3D version, a traditional Blu-ray version. There's a special edition mask case, so it looks like Spidey's head, and then you just flip it up, and then there's the discs underneath. Best Buy has a steel book for the 4K release only, and Target has some exclusive packaging, a comic book that comes with it, and a bonus disc, which I was unable to verify what the special features on the bonus disc were. Are they going to get one? I think I'd go with the Target one, personally. Includes 10 deleted scenes, a gag reel, 7 featurettes, and some other stuff, including Rapping with Cap, all of the Captain America PSAs from the film, as well as including a bunch that didn't actually make the final cut of the film.
Alone.
So there you go. Your straight to DVD pick of the week, Matt. I'm going with Frankenshark. A renegade scientist experiments in the forbidden realm of genetics and discovers the horrifying. The write-up reads the horrifying, like the Attack of the Eye Creatures. Or is it Attack of the Eye Creatures? The horrifying secrets of life. His disregard for ethics results in a tortured new species of fish, similar to a shark, attacking prey in a horrible manner. Not in a polite one, but a horrible one. And includes a quote from the original Frankenstein book. I did not ask the maker to mold me shark from clay. It's actually man originally. So what should we be streaming this week, Matt?
All right. So you know what? I'm not giving Netflix any love this week. I was not impressed with what they got going on. So I'm moving over to a different service. I'm going with Amazon Prime, and I'm going to make 2 recommendations. I can make 3 or 4, but I want to make 2. So the first is in honor of October, and because it is scary movie season. One of the more ridiculous versions of 80s horror is available on Amazon Prime, and I'm of course talking about Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall is about 8 friends who are trapped at a mall in the 80s and pursued by murderous mall robots, and it is ridiculous and incredibly 80s, and you will love it if you have a tolerance for that sort of thing.
If there was a point, Matt, that there was, I don't know what it was in my teens, that I had an affection for head explosions in horror films, and this has one of the better ones you'll ever see. So,
all right. So yeah, get out there and get your 80s slasher films on. Is it really a slasher? We'll call it slasher just because it's 80s. And then, of course, just to kind of drive it home, something that is fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, you owe yourself to watch it. Batman the Animated Series, the 90s series that really defined a lot of what Batman is on the screen today. It is really still one of the best representations of Batman. Even came up with Harley Quinn, who's now basically the most famous or popular character in the world at this point. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Mark Hamill is the Joker. All of the voice acting is just fantastic and top notch. Storytelling is fantastic and mature. If you haven't seen it, you have got to sit down and watch it with your kids. They will love it.
Yeah, and they announced the New York Comic Con 2 the other week that they're finally bringing it to Blu-ray.
Are they? Nice.
Yep. So there you go. All right, man. Well, it just occurs to me when you brought that up too that I blew up the Halloween top 5s we were supposed to be doing for the rest of the month.
Oh yeah, you totally did. You absolutely totally did.
For later on the show. So maybe we'll double down next week.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a top 10. Two different things next week.
Sorry, everybody. I'm not very smart. All right. So that's what you should be checking out. That's what's coming out, Matt. Let's move on then, and let's hear a clip from Gerald's game.
This is going to be good for us, Jess. Really good. That's a marriage, isn't it? Working on the difficult things.
For better or worse.
Let's go in. Get comfy. I bet you think your husband will be back any minute. Try to go for him. There's no one for miles.
Gerald?
I'm sorry, baby. You don't get to know my name.
I don't like this. I'm serious. Stop.
Like that.
Stop it!
Are you playing?
Is this really what it takes these days?
How do we go so wrong? We were happy once. Were we?
Gerald? What? What's happening?
Oh.
Gerald! Somebody! Help!
5 hours you've wasted screaming for neighbors that are half a mile away, if they're even here yet. You can pull till your wrists break. You're not getting out of those cuffs.
You're not real. You're not real.
All right, Matt. So Bruce Greenwood and Carla Gugino are a struggling couple. They go off to their little lake house to try and reignite that flame, right? And she gets handcuffed to the bed. They get a little, what's up? And then he has a heart attack and dies. And then she's trapped on the bed. She clearly has some psychological issues she's dealing with. And as she tries to cope with her situation, she starts to see her deceased husband as well as a stronger kind of version of herself. And she uses these what do you want to call them? Just representations that kind of deal with her current situation and potentially survive and escape. Meanwhile, death is quite literally at the door. So this is more of a psychological horror film based on the Stephen King's novel. And I got to tell you, Matt, I really, really enjoyed this thing. It's a very kind of a small, intimate film. It has, I think, just a fantastic tour de force, if I dare say, performance by Carla Gugino. She has to fluctuate back and forth between this woman who never really dealt with the horror that she experienced as a child. And that's what gives her the ability to eventually, potentially, try and escape. There is, of course, a rather hungry dog and potentially, as we said, death in the doorway, just waiting for his turn. So where did you come down, Matt? As I said, I really enjoyed this thing. It's got psychological thriller, horror, family drama all rolled into one. And I think what makes this thing so effective is that we're kind of lulled into the psychological stuff. When the thing first starts and he passes and she's chained to the bed, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be just a typical survival horror film, right? Which is to figure out. But that's really not what's happening. It's much more about her settling with the demons in her past in order to eventually, potentially escape. So where'd you come down on Gerald's Game?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I remember, so when I was younger, I used to read a lot of Stephen King, and my parents probably shouldn't have let me read it for the most part, but I mean, they were just happy I was reading. And I remember I started to read this one, and I quickly figured out that this one's not really about monsters, and I stopped reading it. So I was happy to catch up with the story. And I think you're absolutely right. This is not really, for lack of a better term, a bottle episode of a movie where everything takes place pretty much in one location. And those kinds of things live or die on the performances of the characters or the actors. And for essentially the only actors in this film are Bruce Greenwood and Carla Gugino, and they're both fantastic, especially Carla Gugino, who I've always really enjoyed her work. She's really just lays it all out there and is just fantastic in it. Yeah, I mean, as far as like you said, it's not really a supernatural thing. It's not like It with monsters and all that kind of stuff. But it's a smaller Netflix original film. I'm really happy they picked it up, and it's actually very successful. I would dare say that definitely the second most successful King adaptation that we've seen this year.
I was leaning towards the best Stephen King film this year.
Yeah. Oh, really? Better than it? I mean, yeah.
I think maybe.
Yeah, you may be right. I mean, despite all of its popularity and how it looks and stuff like that, it's not as cohesive a story. It's not as tight, and the acting is just not as good. It's just not. So yeah, you may be right. I could be swung that way.
Nice. So this is, I think, a continuation of quite a streak for the director as well, Mike Flanagan. Now, he did what I think is a great little horror film, Oculus, which is about a haunted mirror. Seriously. It's a haunted mirror film, but it's actually really good. And then he did Hush, right? We both really liked Hush. And then, of course, last year's Ouija, Origin of Evil, which we both really enjoyed as well. He did Before I Wake in between Hush and Ouija, which is on Netflix. So I think I'm going to try and check that out during this Halloween season. And he's announced to be doing a remake. I guess it's a TV show, though, of The Haunting of Hill House.
Okay.
So, but Mike Flanagan, I think, has really, particularly with Gerald's Game, shown a great, almost mastery of these this horror elements, and it's really, really well done. I really enjoyed this thing.
I 100% agree with you. It's a very strong entry, and I mean, the base layer of it's a pretty grounded King story, like I said, psychological horror as opposed to actual boogeymen. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the director and how strong he was able to do it. So what are you giving this thing for a letter grade there, Christoph?
I mean, here's what's weird. Like I want to say B+, even though I really enjoyed it. I just don't have any real shortcomings. I think maybe it just feels like a smaller film.
Right.
I don't know. But I struggle. Part of me wanted the guy, the one character at the end, maybe to be more of a how do I say this without revealing too much? You know what I'm trying to say? I want him to fit the traditional mold of what you were looking for in your stuff.
Right.
Though I guess in a way he was. So you know what? I got to stick to my guns on this, Matt. I'm giving this an A-. I think it's.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. Where you come down?
Yeah, I was kind of vacillating between an A- and a B+ as well. Like you said, it's a smaller film. I'm going to go with B+. And again, not to say that it's not a really good film and it's not something that you shouldn't check out. I just don't know if I would put it in the thing. I don't know if this thing's ever going to get legs enough to where people are going to be talking about Gerald's game, as like kind of like this, at best I think it's going to be an underappreciated gem, and I think that's fair for it. I don't think it breaks any major new ground, but it is very well done. So I'm going to stick with the B+.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. So that's, yeah, all right, that works for me. Maybe I will go back to the B+ then. I'm easily swayed. I have no strong opinions about anything.
Yeah, no, we are very, very, very waffly here.
So what do you think, though? Should this be what like the Netflix and the Amazons do? Should they strive more for these smaller kind of genre things? Or do they? Well, I don't know. I mean, Manchester by the Sea was a really great film. So, and that was an Amazon Studios movie. But I'm wondering, I don't know. I think at least Netflix seems to be trying to get this stuff that maybe is turned down by other big budget production companies, and then kind of give the creators a little more license to do what they want to do. And if that's what ends up happening with this stuff, and that's what Netflix embraces, then I'm all for it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I mean, this is I think a perfect outlet, and I think we've always had the straight to DVD stuff or straight to video stuff, and that stuff is usually atrocious. And I think doing it this way, this digital model, then you don't have to worry about production. You don't have to worry about advertising as much. I mean, you've already got your built-in subscriber base who's going to watch the thing. You can put it out there. So it even allows you to put more money into the actual filming of itself, even as limited as that be. And it really does show. I mean, even the stuff I've seen of other original stuff, it's all pretty competent. I mean, at the very least, it's not like it's garbage like some of the stuff we see that's like straight to video.
Yeah. No, I agree with you entirely. All right. So B+ across the board. What'd you think of Gerald's game? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, we're going to move into the lounge. I don't have a clip to play because I don't know what to do about it. I think why I basically forgot about the Halloween stuff is just the outrage that erupted this past week in Hollywood in regards to Harvey Weinstein, creator of Miramax, and sold it off, and now he runs the Weinstein Company. Well, no longer runs it, but has been accused by, I don't know how many now, dozens of women of sexually assaulting them, raping a few, including I see Argento, Rose McGowan, a bunch of big names he's tried to make moves on. This was one of the dirty secrets of Hollywood for decades, Matt. For decades. Every new detail that came out about this made me angrier and angrier. Rose McGowan has been leading the charge against this stuff for a couple years now. And now people are finally starting to listen to her. Supposedly one of the issues is that she had an NDA. Weinstein had settled a suit with her, or basically paid her off, but had an NDA. And what Weinstein Company needs to do, because supposedly there's a bunch of more out here, they need to rescind the non-disclosure agreements for every single one of these women and let them tell their stories. The entire board of the Weinstein Company needs to resign. They all knew about this, and the stuff that here's where we need to believe these women when they say these things. All right, the amount of women who like the false accusation crap, like we don't want to ruin a guy's career because some woman is upset she didn't get a role in the film. That is exquisite bullshit. All right, the percentage of that kind of stuff is so minuscule that it actually happens. The reason why a lot of women don't come forward is because they're not believed. This guy's been hounding and harassing and raping these women for decades. And I just, the fact, and here's where I really struggle too, is not only are these women not believed, but you're going to tell me George Clooney didn't know about this? And Matt Damon didn't know? Affleck supposedly told Weinstein to cut it out at some point, or at least Brad Pitt. I guess he back when Brad Pitt was with Gwyneth Paltrow, Weinstein had harassed her, and Pitt said that you touch her again, I'm going to kick your ass. But it was one of the best, worst kept secrets in Hollywood. Everybody knew about this for a very long time, and it's just a symbol of just male oppression and power that everybody would stay silent for this long. But I don't know what to think or do about the people that I used to really respect. I can't imagine Clooney didn't know about this, man. I can't.
Right.
I can't imagine. And it's that group that had the power to stand up and say something, but they didn't.
Right.
And I don't know what to do with that information. And I swear to God, if one more fucking person says, as somebody with a daughter, or as a man with a sister, I condone. No, just fucking not condone, condemn. Just condemn it. I don't need the qualifier that you have a female relationship in your life. It's just wrong to begin with. This stuff just really, really upsets me. And I don't know what to do about it. Not that there's anything I can really do about it. All we can do really is just speak out about it and to support the women who have come forward. And I just I feel like I see Argento. If you're not familiar, Sia Argento is a big-time Italian actress, daughter of Dario Argento, the legendary horror director from Italy. And he raped her. And then they dated, air quotes, for lack of a better term, for a couple of years after that. Because she was like 20, 21 at the time, and she felt that she went up to the room. I fought him off initially, but he's if you've never seen Weinstein, he's a large guy. But eventually she wasn't able to fight him off enough, and then she was just defeated at that point and felt helpless and kind of just was with him off and on for a couple of years after that. That's the power of this oppression that's out there. And I don't know. I don't, Matt. I don't mean to. I don't want to bring you into this. I don't want to put you in a position where you're in it. So if you don't have to really say anything too much about it, I don't want to impose my outrage and my crappy, liberal crap on this stuff. But not that it's even liberal. It's a sexual assault. It shouldn't be liberal. But not that it is. I don't know. I don't mean to put you in a corner about this. I am just outraged by it, and I don't know what to do. Why didn't Affleck and Damon step up? And there's all the crap now with Ben Affleck, and they only have the problem with his brother Casey to begin with. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Well, I remember. So, obviously, this has been talked about for a really long time, and as you alluded to at the beginning of the segment, we'll call this a segment. It's been an open secret, and I remember reading some articles where obviously they didn't name names or anything like that. But they talked about it, and some of these people, like Rose McGowan and some of these other people, talked about how they, that they had these experiences with some of these Hollywood executives, and they're really huge executives, and they couldn't say who they were and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of people talking on anonymity. And it turns out it's Harvey Weinstein, but a lot of this stuff I was reading about. Okay, but how do we know that it's even really the same? It's really all just him. Maybe this thing is just so systemic and endemic to Hollywood culture and the movie system in itself that this is happening so widespread that the reason it's, and I'm not saying this is right, but maybe one of the reasons nobody has said anything, these people that we respect, like Clooney, like Tarantino, or Kevin Smith. You would think these are dudes, especially somebody like Kevin Smith, you would think that he would be vocal against this, that he wouldn't tolerate it. And he's obviously complicit. I mean, he's worked for Miramax for however many years. They gave him this big break. Same thing with like Robert Rodriguez and these guys that we think are kind of these iconoclasts. They obviously didn't do anything about it. And it makes me concerned insofar as, that this is just so widespread in Hollywood, and that this is just the way things are done, that's why people didn't do what they just assume that it's part of the game, or it's part of the deal. And you only come out and start condemning it once you've been caught. So just don't get caught. I mean, you heard the thing about how Terry Crews, who's a 6'6", 250-pound ex-linebacker who got his junk grabbed at a party in front of his wife by this Hollywood executive. And he wasn't even saying it was Weinstein. And the guy just kind of smiled about it and walked away. So, I mean, if somebody can do that to Terry Crews, who is a gentleman, but is not somebody you want to mess with, if that can happen in public, I mean, it's got to be happening. It's got to be so common and just part of what I think people wrongly accept as part of the deal that it's just, I think it's just become part of the culture, which is just awful to think about, as far as we're supporting this kind of thing. And what's even more concerning is you hear about all this stuff about Harvey Weinstein and how this treatment of women and stuff like that. And then you start, but then you have actors like Elijah Wood and stuff who says, hey, people are messing with me when I was a kid, and like what kind of stuff is going on like that. And, he's not really gotten any traction or any of those, and there's nobody's willing to speak out. How many more of those are out there? It could be even worse, going even further deeper into like child stuff. I mean, and it's just crazy to think of what.
That's one of the things I was thinking about, is how widespread and how deep does this go? Is the dam breaking? And I hope, for Christ's sake, it is. There's the stuff with the Corey brothers, right? Feldman and Haim ran into. They were molested and raped. And I don't like to use that word molested. All right, they were raped.
Right.
All right, let's not. Molesting has like a weird kind of soft connotation to it, where rape just punches you right in the face, and that's what they were. All right, same thing like you said, perhaps with Elijah Wood. And then there's all the crap that happened a couple years ago, the allegations against Bryan Singer that were withdrawn because that guy was an unreliable witness, I guess, and he withdrew his own personal lawsuit about it. So this whole thing is just, all I can say is that I hope all of this ends up with a radical change in the industry. Even I remember a year or so ago when we did the films about, there was 2 films about Hitchcock and his women, right?
Right.
And there was one on HBO featuring with the Tippi Hedren thing, and that Tippi Hedren had stated that Hitchcock basically had her sexually harassed and assaulted her. And I didn't want to believe it. I was down on the film. I didn't want to accept it because Hitchcock's my favorite director. I just didn't want that image ruined. But if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. Yeah. And we need to stop turning a blind eye to it. And at what point, maybe we really just have to think about again the interpretation. Maybe we can't separate the artist from the work anymore, which we've been doing. Yeah. Woody Allen is still making films. Roman Polanski still gets cheered at the Academy Awards. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be really tough, though. I mean, obviously, I completely agree with you that this seems to be an institutional kind of thing, which is what I'm worried about. But I suspect that it's true, is that this is so deep into Hollywood culture that they just need to blow their doors wide open on it. But I think once that happens, I think you're going to see a lot of what we love is going to be tainted. And I know it's a minor, in the grand scheme of things, it's not something that I should worry about, but because of the greater good that's going to come out of it. But I would be prepared, Chris, that there's going to be a lot of things that you love or I love, and that are going to be forever tainted by whatever comes out for this stuff. And that's a shame too.
Yeah.
I mean, God, because even what if it comes out how much I'll go back to this. we love Quentin Tarantino. He is one of our favorite film directors. We love his canon. Even his weakest films are some of my favorites. I freaking love Death Proof. But I mean, he was so close to Harvey Weinstein. I mean, he worked with Weinstein almost exclusively, and so how could he not know? Like, and it almost is like, what was he was he complicit in? And it's just gonna destroy a lot of this stuff. And maybe it all just needs to be burned down so it can be built up on better foundations. But yeah, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah. All right. So here's a list. I'm just gonna read this to button this up because I want these women's voices to be heard. Here's the list of alleged victims right now. We have Asia Argento, Rosanna Arquette, Jessica Barth, and they're not all just actors. They're not all actresses. Some of them are employees of his and other people as well. Zoe Brock, Lisa Campbell, Emma DeCon, Florence Durrell, Cara Delevingne, I can never nail her last name, Sophie Dix, Dawn Dunning, Alice Evans, Lucia Evans, Angie Everhart, Claire Forlani, Romola Garai, Lizette Geis, Louise Godbold, Judith Godaresh, Heather Graham, Eva Green, Ambra Ballatina Gutierrez, Jessica Hines, Angelina Jolie, Ashley Judd, Elizabeth Carlson, Minka Kelly, Catherine Kendall, Mia Kirshner, Maylene Klass, Laura Madden, Sarah Ann Massey, Rose McGowan, Emily Nestor, Gwyneth Paltrow, Zelda Perkins, Tommy Ann Roberts, Lisa Rose, Erica Rosenbaum, Melissa Sage Miller, Leah Sado, Lauren Sivan, Mira Sorvino, and Tara Subkoff. Those are all of the women who have alleged Harvey Weinstein has sexually harassed or assaulted them. Argento, Evans, and McGowan, and one other unnamed women are accused Weinstein of raping them as well. And then Weinstein has the audacity to say he's not doing well and is hoping for a second chance.
I know, that is just so, like, the guy is just, he's obviously a sociopath. He's insane. He's obviously insane. It's just crazy to just to see that interview with him, interview people, the press catching him walking to his car. I hope I get a second chance. I'm like, dude, you are done. Like, nobody, like, how in denial are you about this? It's insane. And I'd be really curious is to see he's been very silent is his brother, who's the business side of the actual, corporation, who's the silent guy. I'm really curious to see, what's his name, Bob Weinstein?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I'd really be curious to see, what he has to say about all this, but he never says really anything.
So to put a button on it, men, you need to stand up. You need to be allies. This is the only way this is going to change. So do something, say something, and believe these women. Matt, is there anything else you wanted to talk about this
week?
All right,
on that no, but on that happy note, are we going to our next segment here?
Yeah, let's see if we can end this thing with some fun. Fuck that guy. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's do a special section. I call it. We're gonna predict the Rotten Tomatoes scores, and let's get into it.
Oh, you just can't let it go, Chris. I mean, this talks about that, and now we got Bob Barker flashbacks. Come on, dude.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Spraying animals.
We're gonna pretend this is the Drew Carey. This is the Drew Carey version. We don't know anything about him at this point.
So
he's okay.
All right, Rotten Tomatoes scores. Matt, we are going to now predict Rotten Tomatoes scores for a few films that are coming out this year that we're excited about. Here's the thing. We're using the Price is Right rules. So you cannot go over. It's the closest without going over, but you can't say like 1%. All right.
What? I can't do the $1?
No, there's no $1 on this. All right. You will instantly lose. You have to get as close as possible. And whoever loses Whoever has the fewest close will have to buy the other a $10 gift certificate to the movie theater of their choice.
You know what? Real stakes. You know what? I'm gonna raise the stakes on you, Chris. Not only if I lose, not only will I buy a $10 gift card to the movie theater of your choice, I'm gonna throw in a restaurant gift card of a chain restaurant of your choice. So maybe you could take your lovely wife out on a little date.
Ooh, how much are you looking for that?
I don't know, maybe like $25. I mean, that's not enough to buy dinner, but it can buy half of it. So there you go.
All right. I'll jump into that. I'll do that as well. All right, fair enough. Look at you. All right, Matt, here we go. Here's the three. Here are all the films we're going to do. Killing of a Sacred Deer, Thor Ragnarok, Murder on the Orient Express, Justice League, Disaster Artist, Shape of Water, Star Wars, something or other, and then Phantom Thread.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so what do you got for Killing of a Sacred Deer? What is your Rotten Tomatoes score prediction?
Okay.
Killing of a Sacred Deer that's the film by the guy who did The Lobster.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Okay. I am going to give this one 62%. It looks really weird. I'm very interested to see it. Dude has some interesting ideas, but I don't think it has wide appeal. I think it's still going to freak out some people, and people are going to be confused by it, even the critics. So I'm going to go 62%.
62. I went 78. Actually, I was.
You are feeling. You're coming out the gate swinging, my friend.
I am. All right. Next up, Thor Ragnarok, or as I affectionately call it, Thor 3.
Thor 3. That's what people in the know call it.
I went with 87%.
Okay. Let me just see here. I'm gonna do a little research here.
Initially, I had 90, but I wasn't feeling that brave.
Yeah, that's too high.
Early buzz is really good.
Is it? Well, I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. So critics score. So critics.
You can't look now.
Well, no, I'm not looking now. I'm looking to see what Guardians and Spider-Man did.
Oh, okay.
So Guardians was 82 and Spider-Man was 92. Okay, I'm gonna split the difference. I'm gonna go 88%.
I did 87. All right.
Hey, you said Price is Right rules, but you didn't say I couldn't go one over.
That's true. And I did originally say 90. Watch, it's 90. I'm gonna be kicking myself. You know what? I am going to stick with my guns. I am going to go with 90 because that's what I originally said. Go with your.
Okay. So now we're.
You want to change yours again?
No. I'm going to allow it just this one time, but you can't do it again for the rest of the round.
All right. Murder on the Orient Express.
I'm not excited about to see this, so I'm going to go 65%. I think it's going to be middling.
I had 63. How funny is that?
That is funny.
69, you said? 65.
65.
65.
69.
All right. Grow up. Here's the big one. Are you ready?
All right. I'm ready.
Justice League.
Ooh, Justice League. Golly. All right, hold on. I'm going to do some more research here. Hold on. I got to... So what did Wonder Woman end up with? Because it's not going to be any better than Wonder Woman. It's not possible. Just from what I've seen, it will be better than Batman versus Superman. So I'm pretty confident.
Well, I think that was like 27.
Okay. So no way. Okay, Wonder Woman has a 92% fresh rating on. I'm gonna be really generous here, Chris.
Yeah.
Because you and I are friends, and I care about you. I'm gonna go 72%.
Ooh,
which I think is high. I think it's high, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
Interesting. That's higher than I had.
Really?
My initial one, which I canceled, was 47.
Yeah.
Now, but I settled on 62.
62. See, that's probably more realistic. But this is where this is where we got to struggle with. But this is Rotten Tomato scores. So even if it's a if it's on just the right side of middling, they give it a positive score. So that's why it's going to skew the numbers in a certain way. So I'm going to say 72%.
And keep in mind, the Rotten Tomatoes score is an algorithm of the amount of critics who liked it versus who didn't. It's not like really a true measure of the quality of the film.
Right.
It's a representation of what the critics thought of it.
Yeah.
Disaster Artist. I have 85% for the Disaster Artist.
I want it to be 100% because this thing is going to be amazing, but I'm going to go with I'm going to keep going over. I'm going to keep going over you. I'm going to go say 87%. My initial gut said 80%, but 88%, but I'm going 87.
I think that bodes well for me. All right. I'm Shape of Water. Guillermo del Toro's monster romance drama, The Shape of Water. What do you think?
Yeah. I love Guillermo. I love Guillermo del Toro. I'm going to say 68%.
68.
Yeah.
I got 83.
Really? Oh, you think the critics are going to give it that much love?
I do. I think this is
All right.
I'm confident about Shape of Water. Matt, let's leave Star Wars for the end. The Phantom Thread. The Phantom Thread.
All right. Which one is this? Is the P.T. Anderson film?
Yep.
Okay. It's gonna be at least. I'm gonna go conservative. I'm gonna say 95%. There's no way. I mean, it's probably gonna be higher than 95%. I just don't know how much higher it's gonna be.
I had 89. So you went 95, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Then Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
I don't know. With Star Wars fatigue being real, I think among the critic circles, I'm gonna say 83%.
I actually went with 72.
Oh wow! We have some big jumps in between here.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's not like you have to win by a certain percentage. If you're only a point over, you already lose. So it's not like.
All right. Well, that was fun. Little palate cleanser from after my outrage. Next week, Matt. I'm thinking Foreigner. Though I love the rock group, but only with Lou Gramm. This Kelly Hansen crap is BS. Foreigner ended when Lou Gramm left the band. No, this is the Jackie Chan doing the Liam Neeson serious action thing with Pierce Brosnan.
Right.
I remember when I went to see Rumble in the Bronx in the theater, Matt, and I absolutely adored that thing.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen a Jackie Chan film in the theater. Rush Hour 2, maybe?
Yeah. Wow.
It's been a long time.
Wow, Rush Hour 2 in the theater. You are a brave man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we'll get back to our Halloween-focused top 5s after that. We'll do a top 10, and then we'll see if anything else pops up. But that's going to be the big show for this week. Check us out as always. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Watch the live streaming recording of the show on YouTube or on Facebook, and of course, thefirstrun.com itself. As always, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, that's going to be the big show for this week, and we will see you all soon.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.